Anything they'd like to talk about this evening? We have obviously the react button with the hands up. Mark.
Hello. Hey, Paul.
Hey.
I was I was at the centre recently, and I happened to walk past the bookshelf with the books that are used for people on retreat. One of the books on the bookshelf was your book, Postcards from Beyond, and great book, by the way.
Thank you.
But my question is about the title. I don't know why. I just kind of wandered past. I saw it, like, oh yeah, that's Paul's book, Postcards from Beyond. And then just for some reason, the title of the book kind of stayed with me as a question for much of the day. And so the question is, just wonder if you could talk us through the thinking. But I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Now I ask the question, I'm thinking I might be reading too much into this. But Postcards from Beyond. What or where is the beyond that you're sending your postcards from?
Yeah, you can take an analogy too far.
Yeah.
The reason for the title is contained within the book.
I know. I realise that as well, but I can't remember because I haven't had a chance to. But anyway,
So
we are.
so you go on holiday and then you send somebody a postcard, you know, it's lovely, wish you were here, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that gives the person you sent the post, it's got obviously got a picture of where you are on the front, and it gives a sense for that person of what it might be like to be there. And you know, clearly you're having fun, so it seems like a desirable place to go. And then you go back the next year and you send them another postcard, and they go, oh, yeah, that looks like a really lovely place. I'd really love to go there. And then the next year you go back and you send them another postcard. Is that person you're sending the postcards to, are they getting any closer to that destination? Are they getting closer to that place, despite all the descriptions that they're being given?
No.
And so the title is actually sort of saying you can read, and I'm going to try to put across, and that book is now 10 years old, but I'm going to try and put across give you a flavor, but it in no way, shape, or form is the same as going and visiting that place yourself. And so the title of the book is cancelling out the book. I don't know how clearly people understood my reasoning, but essentially the book is saying, reading this book is okay. I think it's important to have descriptions. I think it's inspiring, it's informative. It helps create a sense of purpose and direction. That's why the Buddha couches his teaching in the Noble Eightfold Path. So it gives a sense of purpose and direction, because we all need that in life. But ultimately, is the beyond somewhere else? No. To get back to your question. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I wasn't really thinking too much into it because I was kind of reflecting. Oh no, I'm not sure I heard Paul say you don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to get anything.
Yeah, but that's the joke. That's the great joke, isn't it? Because in order to find that out, actually, you have to go on the journey.
Sure. So you have to look under all the stones.
You have to read the book. Yeah.
Turn all the stones over.
Yeah. Yes. You realize the great cosmic joke is that you realize there never was anywhere you needed to go. But in order to discover that, you had to go on this journey of insight, because then you know exactly why. Up until the moment of realization, if you uphold that kind of idea, well, there's nowhere to get to, there's nothing to pick up, then that's just as much a blind belief as anything else, because you don't actually know why. But once the realization has dawned, or rather the anti-realization, and you're no longer trying to realize anything, and then there's, oh right, it is what is. It's so simple because it isn't something that's been generated. It's not something that's been formed. It's not something that, has been controlled into existence. It's not like having a really amazing spiritual experience, like getting really concentrated and having this blissful, this brief encounter with something, blissful, and it's a complete. It's not like having an experience. It's not just another experience amongst experiences. It's like you come to the end. You come to the end of all of that. And then in the stopping, when there's no more craving, and in the stopping, then it's just as the most obvious thing. It's like having a gooseberry in your hand. You go, oh, wow, it's there the whole time. So, yes, so it is, the whole thing is, it's so difficult to put into language. And so all attempts at descriptions have to be treated with that understanding that they are simply descriptions of something that cannot be described because it cannot be delineated. It is infinite, and infinite has no boundary. It cannot be defined. It therefore remains unknowable because it cannot be defined. You see, now everyone's going, but if it can't be known, when we're back into this, but I'm trying to describe something. So this is why, at the end of the day, you push the books to one side, you push all the commentary to one side, and you practice the most powerful thing that you can do with your mind, which is mindful noting.
Oh, yeah. Now, in terms of books, right, it's 10% of our time should be dedicated to reading. Is that right? 10% reading, 10% reflection, 80% meditation.
Yeah. Could we change that to 5 and 5 and 90? Could we
Sure.
But we get, we understand what we mean. I think it is certainly very important to read, to study, to inquire intellectually. And I think it is equally important that we reflect on experience intelligently. But those reflections are based on real, direct observation, real exploration of conscious experience, not just speculating. Yeah.
Cheers, Paul.
Thanks, Mark. Always helpful to reiterate that. Giuseppe, I think you're up next. How are you?
Hiya, Paul. Very well, thank you. Again, amazing book, by the way. But just to say, because we're on the subject of books from Mark, I just wanted to bring up something that I'd been thinking about now to do with the book. So I think you may like this book as well because you've mentioned it, I think, in a lecture or whatever. So it's Dune, and fear is the mind killer. And when I read that, I mean, I really enjoyed reading that book. But when I was going through it and I read that, it's sort of presented like it's a negative. And I thought, oh, well, maybe it's the wrong interpretation to say killing the mind, because then you're fighting or you're at war with your mind. But the dissolution or the destruction of this sense of a mind, a separate thing. I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on that when you read the book or had that line.
Yeah, I was more into the worms and the spice. Yeah, I think clearly, I can't remember the name of the person. Frank Herbert, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly he had gathered a lot of information from all different traditions and cultures and had brought them together to make this world where he could make these points about, the way societies are run and so forth, which does seem to be playing out at the moment, to be honest. But as for the fear aspect, I think, yeah, okay, he took a certain slant and showed it in a certain way. But I think essentially the character was sort of saying, well, it's who is the master? Who are you going to be, a slave to fear or a master of fear?
Yes.
Yeah. And so through the practice of mindful noting, we can become the masters of fear.
Yeah.
And what is mastery? It is understanding it.
Yes.
Understanding what its uses are and understanding what its abuses are.
Yeah.
And through understanding it, well, how do you come to understand it? How do you come to understand what it's for, what its purpose is in terms of the whole, structure of the mind, and fear has its uses.
Yeah.
And so the only way to discover that really is to allow it.
Yeah.
Is to be on, a few rungs up the ladder, to allow that fear to arise. And essentially what I think that quote is saying, and certainly how I see it, is like, the fear is keeping me safe. It's doing a job, because and fear, in order to function, fear has to be unpleasant. It's not really going to do its job if it's a really particularly pleasant experience. Like having the nape of your neck gently stroked by your lover, that's hardly going to help in circumstances. You want something that's going, ah! And it's just we misunderstand it. We misunderstand what it's for. And so you're on the ladder quite a way up. You suddenly realize, oh, this is a bit risky. The fear is there. The unpleasant feeling is there, in order to keep you mindful and present and alert.
Yeah.
It's doing a job.
Yeah.
And you learn that through allowing it to be. But then here's the kicker. You recognize its limitations. You recognize beyond that, it's not telling you anything else. It's not telling you shouldn't be up the ladder.
Yeah.
It's just telling you to be careful. And so we go into these situations as human beings where fear arises, and it's just telling us to take care. It's not telling us we shouldn't be doing it. And what we tend to do, because it's unpleasant, is we fight it. We do fight it. And and it can become crippling. It can be a mind killer. It can stop you in your tracks completely, can't it?
Yeah, no, this is making so much more sense. And it's exactly, I think, what the author was possibly pointing to, but it's just really helpful to hear that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And so it's not that fear doesn't arise.
Yeah.
It's that you understand the fear. And we could, we could be talking about anxiety. We could be talking about loneliness. We could be talking about depression. We could be talking about all kinds of things. It's like the tendency is to reject the experience because we don't necessarily understand that it might have value for us. When we understand that the objective of the exercise is to look at all of this in order to become the master of it, to understand it through and through and see its limitations, then it can arise because it's only ever going to arise when the conditions allow. It arises, it makes its presence felt, and then its nature is to pass away again.
Yeah.
And so the more you open up to suffering in all its various forms and observe the craving for things to be different, the easier it becomes to handle all this sort of thing.
Yes.
Was there anything else about that, Giuseppe, or do you think?
No, that was really good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. It's not the most popular sort of way to introduce a spiritual teaching, to sort of suggest, well, what we're asking you to do is to look at your suffering. But once you understand the philosophy of it, you begin to practice in earnest, opening up to what's there and learning that, oh, okay, it's not the thing itself, it's the resistance to the thing which is the real killer, the real painful thing. And I can't do it. It's like the two arrow analogy with suffering. There's like nothing we can do about the first arrow. It's just the arrows of outrageous fortune. It's inevitable that we're going to experience painful feelings from time to time. It's inevitable that we're going to lose the things we love, become united with the things we don't want, and we're going to experience the frustration of not being able to get what we want from time to time. And that's the first arrow. But then it's our choice to plunge in the second arrow. We get the first arrow, we just plunge it right back in again. That's optional. If you practice mindfulness and you practice mindful noting, it's optional as to whether you crave for things to be different, whether you reject experience. That's something that you can do something about. You can learn through the development of wisdom not to fire that second arrow. And in doing so, you recognize that the suffering, the original suffering, the first arrow, is transient. The pain doesn't last. The unwanted experience doesn't last. Its nature is to arise and pass away. And so what we find is there's so much more psychological space because we're not always passionately wanting things to be different. We're beginning to open up, let go, relax, surrender, let be. And we start to recognize that life has this wonderful flow.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Giuseppe. Tim, hello.
Hello. Yes, I was thinking more about the if it's 80% of the time it's not reading or commentary, etc., but close observation. Only a small fraction of that really in any sort of busy working day is going to be seated practice. So let's say that it's probably 70% of the time one should be observing, being mindful whilst about their busy day. And I was hoping perhaps you could say a little bit more about, so for example, how can one be truly mindful if you're teaching a class or you're, I don't know, having to tell someone off or have a deep conversation with your accountant? I don't know. All of those things, how can you not just lose yourself completely in your task if you are endeavoring to be mindful all the time?
Okay, well, I didn't introduce the idea of being mindful all the time.
Okay.
It was just the original point that was made was like, what is percentage-wise, where is most of one's effort in terms of following this training? What's it going to be on? Because for a lot of people, they read and they study, but they do no real actual practice. And for other people, they do no reflection, and so it's just trying to help establish what the general proportions of things are. It's really useful to have regular immersion in discussion of the Buddha's teaching, which this is.
Yeah.
It's really, really helpful to have a book of Dharma, Buddha's teaching, on the go, that you're dipping into regularly. It's really useful to keep a journal for your meditations and any time spent practicing mindfulness, because that aids mindful noting tremendously. And it gives us a second opportunity to run through all the information that was gathered through our mindfulness practice. In hindsight, we can run through it again and say, well, all those experiences have now passed away. So all that shape and color, the sounds, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations that that was experienced during that time have now all ceased. And it also helps with pattern recognition and helps with making meditation more efficient. So the things that we learn in meditation, we reflect on, and that helps us when we set up our intentions for further practice. Okay, so we've got the study side, which is helping informing us. We've got the reflection side, which is helping inform us, and then we've got the actual practice itself. it is impossible for anyone to practice mindful noting all day long. You know, you come on retreat, you come on retreat with the absolute best supporting conditions you will find anywhere, a place geared up for the simple exercise of mindful noting. And yet we all, you know, sometimes we're on it and sometimes we're not, because practicing mindful noting is transient, like everything else. So it needs repeated intention and setting up and volition, which we do, and gradually we get better on it. On retreat, you know, we end up practicing mindful noting outside of the seated practice more often, in the course of the week or the weekend or whatever. So I think the key is not to set up the way we narrate it to ourselves. We say, "Oh, the idea is I'm supposed to be mindful all day." No, the idea is to be mindful now. Are you all, so like going back to what I was saying before the meditation, what are you aware of now?
Sound.
Great. So it's just remembering to do it, isn't it? Or I just come around your house and just keep saying, what are you aware of now? And now? And now? But honestly, I don't think that's the best use of my time. So it's down to you. It's not that it's difficult, it's just remembering to do it.
Mm.
So like, well, I had to drive. I didn't have to. I chose to. I wanted to. I drove to my dad's today, near Ringwood. So that was an hour and a half drive. I was practicing mindful noting. Was I practicing mindful noting perfectly every moment of that journey? No. But each time it lapsed, there was a point at which I realized I'd stop noting and I'd just carry on noting in them. What am I noting? Sound, shape and color, sensation, movement, pressure, hardness, softness, warmth, coolness. And that doesn't inhibit my ability to perform that task. Now, like for instance, now I'm talking, it perhaps isn't possible to practice mindful noting in the same way. However, because of all the practice that has gone in, it is that much more easier to be aware of my mental states, my hand movements, the sound of my voice. I'm in the moment, I'm doing the thing. I'm doing. I might not be necessarily mindfully noting at this time, but I'm still being mindful because it's a natural part of, the mind. It's a mental component like everything else. So when I get the opportunity, like when, say, this discourse ends, you know, and we all go our separate ways, there is the possibility of picking up mindful noting. It's just habit.
So to be truly engrossed in a pursuit, perhaps your profession or something which takes up 100% of your attention, perhaps, you know, caring for someone, in a very kind of intense way, perhaps, if that takes 3 hours, there won't be any mindful noting for 3 hours.
Why would there not be mindful noting for 3 hours?
That's my confusion, because if there's mindful noting, is it not the case that that would have to mean that there isn't?
I think the problem here is that maybe you're trying, you think that you somehow have to adopt the right approach, or that, I'm trying to find the right words to use, that you're trying to conform to a pattern. That isn't what this is about.
Right.
Do you want to deepen your wisdom into the true nature of reality? Do you want to?
Yes.
Okay, do it then.
So I could then give up my profession.
Why would you? What are you talking about? Why would you? You don't have to change anything. What?
Well, I'm glad of this response, because that's my confusion. When I'm fully involved in...
Live the life you want to live.
Yeah.
For heaven's sake. You don't have to conform. This isn't about conforming. You want to investigate your experience. You want to explore the true nature of your experience. The Buddha provides the tools. It lets us know what's possible and provides us the tools. And then we employ it. And you employ it whenever you remember. Like, trying to think of an example, but like, okay, so you're saying for 3 hours you do something where there is nothing else going on other than that activity, and it is not possible to practice mindful noting in that activity.
That's been my experience.
I'd love to know what that activity is.
Music.
What? You don't employ mindfulness when you play music?
Well, I'm not able to note.
So I'm not able to note when I drive a car. I know you're an excellent musician. And I know that any musician worth their salt, that the mind is very quiet when they play.
So there's certainly presence, and it's not just music, but the things which...
I think this is a really silly conversation.
Okay.
Because it's like, if you want to practice. If you want to practice mindfully noting what you're doing, practice whenever you remember, whenever the opportunity arises. You don't have to change your life. Just do what you want to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Just, I think there is a strong tendency in people to believe that somehow this is about having to conform to a pattern. It comes back to this thing of getting things right. There's nothing you have to get right. You're allowed to enjoy your life. As long as you're not hurting people, as long as enjoying life doesn't include breaking precepts routinely, as long as it's like you're living a genuine, you're living a genuine life. You don't have. It's like the changes that occur naturally through what you discover through practicing mindful noting. And that it might mean that there are changes that occur in life and that you tend to give up certain things. When I say certain things, I don't know what those things are because they're all so individual. I found, for instance, that I reached a point in my spiritual path where music ceased to have any allure, but that was me, and that was a natural outcome of my exploration of conscious experience and what I wanted to focus on. But that was me. This is something I'm telling every student when they're on retreat and wherever they come to see me. It's like, your path is unique to you. Nobody has your path. You have your path. You have the things that you need to learn, and you have the kind of experiences that you have along the way, and you either go fast or slow, with ease or with difficulty, or some ever-changing combination of all of those. And it's unique to you. It isn't about conforming to a pattern. It is about freeing you to explore your experience to come to your understanding of the way life really is. And I think that it's like, okay, so you got a certain set of conditions, and that means that you can't employ mindful noting as much as somebody else. There's no comparison to make. You develop the path, you develop your practice in whatever way you can. And as you walk through life, and as you see more and more about what craving is and what surrender is, and you surrender more and more, and life flows more and more naturally, you find quite naturally that you're letting go of stuff that no longer is no longer required. And so you become more moderate, you become content with little, you find there's so much more space and time and freedom, which means you practice more and more and more because you've got the space. So this isn't about conforming in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah. So whenever you remember, guys, whenever you remember, you just pick up the mindful noting. Sarah, hello. Sarah, are you, what's going on?
Hello?
Yeah, I can now.
Can you hear? I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What's your question?
Thanks. I just thank you for that encouragement. I've got a delay here going on for some reason. It was just to share from my experience that it did take a long time to get the practice going, where it became natural to just have a soft little note in the back of the mind. But it does come. It will come and will become more natural, and little notes will just pop up. Hearing, or annoyance, or whatever the mindfulness is showing us at that time, even when busy doing other.
Okay, your connection's not very good, Sarah, but I think I understand what you're saying, and I agree. There's no perfection in it. Again, I come back to the same idea of, like, the idea is that I conform to a pattern, and the pattern is that I'm supposed to be mindful all the time. No, nothing doing. But if there is a gentle, persistent willingness to set up periods of mindful noting, which is essentially when I remember that I haven't been mindful, that's the moment when I'm once again mindful, and I can practice. Then gradually it takes hold outside of meditation, formal seated meditation. You start to recognize that how simple and straightforward it is to do. I think it is very, very helpful to give some time outside of formal seated meditation, time to do tasks. Physical tasks are especially good. Doing the washing up, doing a bit of gardening, going for a walk, taking the dog for a walk. Little tasks that we do routinely every day, and incorporate mindful noting into those. I don't know. Why do we think it's difficult? Why do we think it's difficult? It's not difficult. You just got to be willing to do it. Jason, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, it was actually just with the music thing, and just how in a lot of ways I've found the noting really useful, but it's not like if you're playing a piece, it's not like you're going finger moving, because you couldn't. It's too. But you can go.
Sound.
But you can go. Oh, nervousness.
Yes.
And you just go, oh, there's nervousness,
Yes, good
and that's
point.
really useful because then when you're aware of that, you can just relax into it, or whatever it is, or I've just played a wrong note. Oh, okay, criticism. You just that word can be enough to just go. Oh, it's all right. It's okay.
Oh yes, well, yeah, absolutely. yes, because if we've got this fixed idea that mindful noting is about catching everything, and then we're again falling into this trap. It's mindfully noting what you become aware of. And so, your example is like the musical performance equivalent of being up a ladder. It's like, I'm feeling nervous. Well, good. That means you're not a complete sociopath. So you note what you can.
And it actually helps.
Yes, of course it will.
Because, you're not caught up in it.
Mindful noting has no downside. It's value free. Yeah. And we start to treat those hitherto unwanted mental qualities as just mental qualities. They're no longer unwanted. They're just, well, of course there's going to be nervousness before doing a public event. I mean, I know, after 10, 20, 30 years of public performance, that degree of nervousness might not quite be the same, but still, it's really good to recognize.
I still get, if I ever do a solo performance, always 10 minutes before, the feeling comes up, oh, I hope it's cancelled, and then I can just go home and watch telly. It just always arises, and it's
because it's got value. It's telling you, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to be careful. You want to be mindful. You want to be you want to be focused. It's not telling you to go home, really. What it's telling you is, like, this is important. Do it properly. So it's just keying you in. It's got such value. This is no, really good point, Jason. I think that helps. So it's we're not trying to couch the mindfulness in, because some people have this, what they call mindfulness. What they mean is a mind free from any states like anxiety. That's what they mean by mindfulness. A state free of any sensual desire, a state free from any irritation or frustration or any unwanted states. That's what they think mindfulness means. But it isn't. Mindfulness means the value-free, choiceless, non-judgmental awareness of what is present. And so once you understand that and you practice mindful noting on that basis, you realize there's nothing that shouldn't arise. And through noting it, you master it. In that moment, you have clear comprehension of the anxiety, of the performance anxiety, stage fright, or whatever it happens to be. You are in that moment, because of the clear comprehension of what it is, you are the master of it, because you're not blindly you're not acting it out. And so your performance is that much better as a consequence. So yeah, thanks for that, Jason. That was very helpful. Liz, hello. Oh, you'll need to unmute. Thank you.
Sorry, hi, Paul. Just to say something that Tim was saying about getting embroiled for 3 hours in some sort of accountancy meeting or something. Can you say something about the value of the exercise of turning to mindfulness of the body? Because I find that really helpful when I've been over brain working, to actually return to where my body is on the chair. Or
in what way have you found it helpful? You tell us instead.
Because it just does take away all the preoccupation with the complexity of what's going on in the mind, and it also gives you a chance to actually focus on that in more detail by returning to looking at where the body is in space and time.
How long does that
walking take? Or
how long does it take?
Not very long, because it's just a few some actions, you become aware of what your body's actually doing or being.
Yeah. So this is why the Buddha talked about the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of states of mind, and then mindfulness of dhammas, content of mind. And he starts with mindfulness of body.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to start with the body and generating, non-judgmental, choiceless, value-free awareness of the state of the body, because it's relatively gross compared with the fleeting nature of the mind. But once you've established mindfulness in the body, you have a foundation. You are grounded. And then it tends to be that we become more aware of feelings.
Yeah.
Whether they're pleasant feelings or unpleasant feelings or neutral feelings. And we become more aware of the general state of the mind, whether we're happy or whether we're irritated, or whatever else it might be. And then as a consequence of generating those foundations, then the 4th foundation is mindfulness of essentially the Buddha's teaching, the lists, the 7 factors of enlightenment. You become aware that mindfulness and the noting, the investigation, gives rise to a balanced state of mind. And what tends to emerge is pleasurable interest. So you've got mindfulness, investigation, balance, balanced energy, and pleasurable interest, all of which can be noted. But where did it begin?
Body.
It's the body.
Yeah. Yeah. Even that act that I remember being instructed to do on retreat, you set up a short period of walking mindfulness along a corridor, and then you reflect on it. It really calms the mind, brings the mind into the here and now.
Yes, and bringing it into the here and now, what do we mean? We mean we're not engaged in wanting life to be different than it is. We're not trying to resolve problems. We're not trying to reconstruct the past. We're not trying to head off perceived problems coming in the future.
Yeah.
We're paying attention to the only reality we have. We are now finally paying attention to it. And for that time being, we are free of resistance and passionately wanting things to be different.
Because you're literally reaching for the door handle or flicking the thing down on the kettle to boil the kettle. That's all you're doing. Yeah. That's all there is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That literally, the more we practice, the more we see there is literally this.
Yeah.
That is the totality right there. It is literally that movement, that thought, that feeling, that sensation.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
No, very
I
great.
just thought that's I find that a helpful thing to do when you're not being mindful, when there isn't mindfulness. Yeah, a way to get back into it.
Yes, the first most important thing when we discover that we haven't been mindful is
to be mindful of that.
To
note it.
To note it. And what is our attitude to the discovery that we haven't been mindful?
Oh.
Right. Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
Again.
Because what most people, especially at the beginning of the practice of mindful noting, the trap people fall into is believing that somehow they've gone wrong.
Yeah.
That they by not being mindful, they've made an error.
Yeah, you tell yourself off for not being mindful. Yeah.
So this precious moment when mindfulness has finally returned, because there had to be mindfulness in order to understand that the mindfulness had been lost.
Yeah.
That precious moment when mindfulness has returned, we use it to berate ourselves unnecessarily, where we could just be going, right, oh, okay, all right, well, here's the perfect opportunity to practice mindfulness then.
Yeah. Thank you.
Once you understand that, the whole thing becomes so much more enjoyable. The door really opens, because the worst thing that can happen, the non-practice of mindful noting, here is the sign, here is the opportunity to do it, and it takes such a burden away. because we're no longer trying to fit to a preordained pattern. We're doing something that we know has real, genuine depth and worth. And here is the perfect opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
So the self-recrimination it's habitual, but it's so unnecessary. And so, yeah, once there's been that perfect, that willingness to accept a lack of mindfulness observed is the opportunity to now practice, then easiest thing to do is to turn the mind to the body.
Yeah.
Firstly, are you lying down, standing up, sitting down, or walking?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, I'm sitting down,
Yeah.
That's your entry point.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Anyone else have any thoughts, observations? It really is the most powerful thing. The more I think about this, people practice concentration. Some people practice concentration to incredible degrees and have incredible kinds of experiences through that. Some people chant. Some people practice breathing exercises, and you can have incredible experiences with chanting and breathing exercises. Some people are interested in all these ideas about manifesting, and there's so much out there, isn't there? But they're all engaged in trying to obtain some kind of altered experience. Whereas mindful noting is not about trying to obtain altered experiences. It's learning about this experience, the experience that we're currently having. And it develops wisdom. And it is, and people don't understand that just because it's straightforward, just because it's just looking at really obvious things, the everyday things of your everyday experience, it tends to be disregarded so easily and so quickly. But it is vastly more powerful than any other spiritual practice you can do. It is more powerful than anything else you can do with your mind, because it generates the wisdom that sets you free from suffering. But it's just not flashy. It's not offering some alternative state that you can experience. I mean, you can have an alternative state just going down the pub and having a drink. Altered states are not all that, it turns out, because they're transient. They don't last. Seeing the true nature of reality, seeing what it actually really is, being set free from suffering forever, all comes from the willingness to just mindfully note the sound, the thought, the feeling, the sensation. So don't underestimate it. Just because it seems so, it's not. It is the most powerful thing that you can use your mind for, without any shadow of a doubt. Natalie.
Oh,
There you go.
hi, Paul. Yeah. Thank you for everything about, on this Zoom meeting. I get a lot from it. I just wanted to say about something noted last week when I was with my husband in a hospital car park. We were stuck in it for 40 minutes, having been 2 hours at the hospital. And what was noted, which was really quite amazing, because it was a jam-packed car park, and there weren't any cars being able to get out in order for the new ones to get in. So we were stuck there for 40 minutes. We really couldn't understand what was going on. We couldn't really see anything apart from the car in front and the car behind and the cars either side. But what I noted was this very unusual mind state of feeling really okay with it and really, not impatient or irritated or annoyed or we'd want to be somewhere else or anything, and just being very calm. And that was so unusual. I kept noting that how lovely it felt. And we just looked at the sky, and because it was a beautiful day and the trees, and Peter was quite happy because he hadn't been feeling well, obviously, but it was okay. What we were very grateful about was the fact that we didn't need to go to the loo, because I think that would have been a real drag. I was so grateful. So, oh, phew, thank goodness we can put, and eventually the cars started to move, and it was a feeling of, well, we're all in this together. What can we do about it? But what I really noted was my response of being okay with all of this, which is so unlike my habitual tendency of being, impatient and all the rest of it. So yeah, I mean,
you see how the mind creates a story and
absolutely.
applies a value to that story.
Yes, yes.
Like, are we willing? I mean, it is inevitable through the practice of mindful noting that you will come to realize that you never were trapped in a car for 40 minutes at the hospital. Yeah. That is simply a story that is being applied. Now, we have to have stories in order to make sense of the world and to pass through it and do what we need to do. But the more you practice the observation of transience and conditionality, and you start to comprehend the great emptiness of it all, you start to realize you are not that story is simply, put it this way, the story is just one component of the experience. It isn't informing us as to what the experience actually is. It's just one component. Really, there isn't a story. Nobody's trapped anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by looking at things in ultimate terms, shape and color, sound, thought, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, sensation, and the rest of it, we come to see that indeed there are no stories. And that brings great power to the mind, because we do need a story, but we see the relative nature of the story and that we can change the story in any way we want. And so this is why I keep talking about how, change the story, practice some gratitude, or what do I like about unfolding experience? So if you're sitting there and, you're in a traffic jam or something, and you're just looking at the clouds scudding through the sky, or the way the light is falling on the tree tops, or that very vivid green color in the leaves, or that person wearing that hat walking across the road, or whatever it is, it's like you're choosing the narrative. And it's so powerful because the way that we use the mind has results, and what we experience the perceptions are based on the way that we're narrating the story. So it's not fixed. It's malleable. It's changeable. You get to change the story in any way that you want. There's an unfolding reality going on, yeah, but you get to choose the story that goes along with it.
Yeah.
And that becomes very powerful.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, because I think I really am beginning to experience the feeling of that power if it really.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to get? What are you going to get if you sit there going, "This is terrible. The NHS is terrible. Car parks are terrible. Government is terrible. Everything is terrible." You will get a set of perceptions based on that, and you will feel what you feel according to that narrative.
Yeah. I tell you what, we did learn something from it. We've learned each day to get there as early as we can before it gets jam-packed. We've also now learned where to park so that if we are jam-packed, we've got the easiest access out of it. But actually, we are so grateful for the IUH. It's been absolutely an amazing place. With the car park is one area of
Well,
but
take out with
I mean, there are lots of people going there. What can you say?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Everyone's doing the best they can.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul, for everything. Thank you.
Oh no, not at all. Well, yeah, I'm only passing on what I found to be so.
Thank you.
And if that, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about karma and why is one person experiencing what they're experiencing now? What did they do in the past? And I was like, I don't know. Because I just don't know. I'm just a guy. But I've practiced mindful noting I came into the center in 2001. 20 years awake, apparently, I've been told. And you learn a thing or two, and all I'm doing is literally passing on what I found out to be so. And everyone is free to work with that or not as they see fit. But I think bottom line, like what I've found in the last few years, like there's just been really, I feel really good about it. It's like the number of people that when I have an interview with them, it is clear from what they say and their responses to my questions is that they do understand how to practice now. I think we're a smaller group than we used to be in the heyday or whatever, but I think there are a greater percentage of people that are actually practicing properly now and have caught on, have understood and realized the fundamental simplicity of it and are getting the results from their practice. Yeah. So I feel great about that. But I'm only literally just passing on what I found to be so. And people are free to agree or disagree. But, I think if anyone applies themselves and persists with it, then in the end, they realize the simplicity of what's actually the Buddha is actually asking of them. And it's well within everyone's capacity. Because when you're practicing properly, it feels, you'd be able to testify to this, Natalie, wouldn't you? When you're practicing, when you're practicing, when you've got the balance, it feels like you could just carry on endlessly. And it's an enjoyable thing. And it has profundity and it has depth. You start to see that what you had taken to be so ordinary, that you were always looking over it, trying to find happiness, trying to find depth, trying to find profundity in life. And you were always overlooking where it actually is. And it is in those apparently ordinary moments. And so the ordinary becomes extraordinary. And you realize that the great mystery has been calling to you all this time. And you've just been ignoring it because you thought that your happiness lay somewhere else. And it's just mindful noting. It really is just mindful noting, just that willingness to carry on mindfully noting. Okay. So get on with it at your own speed, in your own way. So, yeah. Anyone, any other thoughts, or should we leave it there for this evening? I know, I'll make the decision. We're leaving it there for this evening. Okay. So, yeah, keep practicing.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Paul.
Paul.
Excellent.
Many
Thank
See you
you.
again soon.
See you soon.